All right, today we're going to be making a drawing of a pumpkin in a pumpkin patch. So we're going to start by taking a look at what a pumpkin looks like. It has sections, doesn't it? Big sections. It's not a round ball like a basketball or an orange. So we're going to begin by making an oval. And then we're going to add curved lines, like a letter C, to each side, just like we see on our pumpkin. I'm using a marker. The first thing I'm going to do is make a boundary box on my paper so that I don't run off the side of my paper, get the table dirty, get my clothing dirty. I know where to stop with my materials. So now I'm going to make the first shape. If you can get the shapes and lines of an object, you can draw anything. Next thing I'm going to do is a letter C, a curved line starting touching the oval, coming down to the bottom. Wow, that looks pretty pumpkin-y, doesn't it? Let's add a few more. I think I'll stop there. That looks like a pumpkin shape to me. I'm going to add a rectangle at the top. That's my stem. And over here, the horizon line. I'll make a straight line from the edge of my pumpkin to the edge of my box. Suddenly my pumpkin is sitting on the ground and not just floating in space. Here's the sky, here's the ground. Remember, the earth and sky always meet together. That's the horizon line where they meet. We're going to have a moon in the sky and some little swirly clouds because we need some areas where we can maybe add some color. We're looking at our pumpkin patch at night. Also, there's, little bushes. Got some leaves on the ground. Leaves, you remember, can be pretty much any shape at all. It's fall, If you look around, you'll see leaves of all kinds of different shapes and varieties. And then maybe some little bushes off in the distance. Snap that cap. When you hear it snap, you know that your marker is going to be good the next time you use it, because it'll be keeping the ink from drying out. All right, so I want to use a fun way to color my pumpkin. I like painting, and a great way to paint is with markers. This is a Crayola marker, just a regular marker. It's orange, it says so right there. I'm going to take the top off, and I'm going to just follow the contour of my pumpkin lines and get a big thick line with the side of the point. Not the end of the point, but the side of the point. And I'm just sort of outlining. It's not exact. It doesn't have to be. I just want to get that pigment onto the paper, the color. And I'll show you why. And even if it looks like your marker's dried out and it's not coloring, use it anyway, because with this technique, the color will come right back. I'm going to add some yellow. The moon's over here, so the light's coming this way. And I want there to be some extra bright highlights on my pumpkin. So now we're using 3 elements of art, right? Line, shape, and value. The lightness and darkness. Click that marker, did you hear it? All right, this is the magic part. I'm gonna get some plain water, that's all this is, and a brush. If you don't have a paintbrush, you can use a Q-tip, a sponge, a paper towel, anything that will hold a few drops of water. And I'm just going to put a tiny bit of water on my brush. Always start with a little bit. And I'm going to brush the paint. Look what happens. Look what happens when I get that marker wet. It turns to paint, and you're able to paint with it and blend with it, and you get these beautiful watercolor soft edges in a variety of shades, right? That's where our value comes in. There's enough paint on here that I can actually go to other areas of my painting and add some paint. Do it again. Again, just a drop. Not a lot, just a little bit. Okay? Tiny bit at a time. You can always add more, but you can't take it away. But you can always add more. Here we go. Now come over here. Just a drop. And I'm wiping my brush if I have too much water on the side of my jar. I never tap because tapping can get water everywhere where we don't want it. I'll put a little orange in this bush out here too. Let's see about that. So we used our marker with water and brush for that one. We're also going to use another watery trick. I have a few crayons, and I love my crayons. I love to use crayon. The really cool thing about crayons and watercolor is that water and wax don't mix. So I'm going to put a nice coating in a circular motion on my moon, because I want to make sure that even if I get paint in there, it's going to stay white. Then I'm going to make some marks on the white paper, just so you'll be able to clearly see what happens when we paint over white crayon. Now, these little clouds, little wispy clouds, I'm thinking it's probably around sunset. It's not a pitch black night, so there's some clouds and they're reflecting some pretty colors in the sky. So we often see pretty colors in the sky. Here's a little pink, a little purple. Just little wisps of color in the sky. Cool. And I'm going to add some yellow to my bush over here, my foliage. Okay. I think I'll make the stem of my pumpkin green. Maybe some green in here. Sorry if it looks like an earthquake. The thing's wiggling a little bit. Oops. And I'm blending my two colors together, my two crayons together, right on the paper. Because you can. And you can blend crayon with marker. You can use colored pencil to add more dimension. Pastels or chalks if you have them. Let me get my water again. This time I'm going to take some pan watercolors. Very simple, inexpensive materials, and I'm going to use my blue. I could use my marker to do the sky, but a blue marker, but I'm going to use pan watercolor because I want you to see that you just need a little bit of water and the tip of the brush. The tip, not the side, not the metal part, only the tip. And we're going to paint right there with water. We can add a little more water if it's dark. It's nice and dark. But look at how the white crayon repels the water and the paint. So it's like magic. And even if I get paint on the moon, it's not going to turn blue because it's covered with crayon, which is wax. Okay. Now down here I have some crayon in this bush and some watercolor. So I need to be a little more careful of my edges of the pumpkin because they don't have any crayon on them. So I'll just carefully paint there, and at all times I'm using the tip of my brush, stroking the paper carefully, horizontally, going in the way of the paper. Everything makes a difference. So if you want to get a nice flat color, you need to make sure you're using nice even strokes. If you want your color to be wavy, then you want to use your brush like that. But again, always use only the tip so we don't ruin the brush. We have our brush for a long time if we use it carefully. go, down there to our bushes. There's our blue sky. Now, if we want to come back after that dries, we can add other colors in the sky. There are so many colors in the sky. Make sure we carefully rinse the color out of our brush so that if we go to use another color, we're not going to mess it up with the previous color. All right, and we still have the ground to do. Let's go back to our markers. Use our marker and water technique. This is a nice green. I like this green color. And again, I'm just going to go around the contour of the shape because I want to pull more color in from the pigment that I'm putting down. Let's make sure we get plenty of green on there. And just for a little bit of variety, I'm going to add in a tiny bit of brown here and there, just to give it some depth. Okay, and then I'm going to mix my green and brown together, push them around on my paper. Ooh, look at that. Looks really cool. Because maybe there's some patches of brown, patches of dirt showing in the pumpkin patch. Right? See that? That's what watercolor does. It makes those beautiful feathery edges. Now I'm just going to spread that and let that color mix together. So I have some brown patches and some green patches. I can add some green up in the bushes, or some brown if I think it needs a little brown. Looking good. Rinse out the brush. All right, rinse it out, get the color out of it so I can use it next time. I still have a couple of leaves to color. I'll make them red. A lot of red leaves in the fall, right? So there they are, red. And I'll just put a little water on there to fill them out a little bit. So they go all the way to the edge. I don't like to see white paper. Ooh, I like that. In my paintings, I like every piece to be covered with color because that way it shows that I wanted it all colored. Now, I'm adding a little bit of this darker red to the very bottom, underside of the pumpkin, because it would be the darkest area of the pumpkin, right? Because the light's coming this way. So now we have value, we have shape, we have lines, we have color. We've used many art elements in our pumpkin patch. There we go. Happy Halloween.